Welcome back to Bills and Business. I'm your host, Laura Carr, co-founder of USLege. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Mia McCord. Mia recently joined the Texas Chemistry Council as the Vice President of Government Affairs. She has nearly 2 decades of experience, where she's held roles as Chief of Staff in both House and Senate in the Texas Legislature, and she was the first Hispanic female president of the Texas Conservative Coalition. She also founded Hourglass Strategies, representing clients across the state. She's a South Texas native, a proud graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. And here's our conversation. Wow, it's good to have you on the podcast, Mia.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, for people who don't know you,
Yes.
and I know you are pretty known in the Texas space. So, yeah, if you want to share with everybody who you are and what you're all about.
Sure. So Mia Garza McCord, and I have been working in this business. This will be my 20th year.
No way.
January will be year 20 for me. My
Congrats.
very first, thank you, I think. What was supposed to be something temporary turned into a 20-year career. You know, I graduated from UT and thought I wanted to go to law school, and ended up getting a paid internship. I got called the week of my graduation. I had been working at a law firm, so I knew I had kind of a part-time gig if I needed it. I thought I wanted to go to law school. I get this call. I had already left for Christmas break, and they said, we'd love for you to come and intern for us. It was Milk. So I was their second class of interns. They had just started the program the year before. And I never left the building after that. I mean, technically left the building for other, sides of the career, but really I fell in love with it. Both of my grandfathers were local elected officials growing up. So I remember hand painting 4x8 pieces of plywood, stenciling them from stencils we bought at Wynn's with paint.
Cool.
I mean, there were no campaign disclosures.
Wow.
So my grandmother used to always tell me that I was destined to go into politics, and I used to kind of laugh it off. As I got older, when I was younger, I used to tell people I wanted to be president of the United States.
I used to say that too.
Yeah,
That's so fun. I've changed my mind on that.
Oh yeah, there's no way. There's not enough money in the world that would get me to ever consider it.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
I love that that's kind of how a lot of young people wanting to go into politics think, oh, I want to be in office.
Yes.
And then they kind of work for a member and then they say either yes or absolutely no.
Absolutely. When as I rose within legislative offices and was, had a staff and whatnot, I used to, especially the young interns that we'd bring in, used to tell them, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And if you hate it, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just, this is the kind of world we work in. Luckily, none of them ever told me they hated it, but.
And you obviously didn't.
I didn't. I stuck it out.
What made it go from being temporary to, your passion?
I realized that I really did love, and it sounds so high in the sky, but, helping people and shaping public policy and, the good that does come out of it. I know sometimes, especially now, it's hard to see the good that comes out of politics and policy because you only hear the bad stuff, but there's so many really cool stories of how you help people. One of my favorite moments is, I work for now Senator Hancock, worked for him in the House and then in the Senate. So 10 years with him. He married me and my husband. Our kids know him as Uncle Kelly and his wife is Aunt Robin. But we worked on the first ever piece of balanced billing legislation. And it became model legislation across the nation to protect consumers from, unexpected hospital bills. And so that's something that I take a lot of pride in, that I got to be part of. And it continues today, and the fight continues today.
That's really cool. Well, I think that's a good balance. What made you not want to go to law school?
Money. So my parents couldn't afford to pay for school for me. So I made the decision to go to UT, and knew that with that came some financial burdens. And so I had student loans. I also worked just about the entire time I was in college. Mm-hmm. So I went to school full time, worked, it wasn't really part-time. It usually ended up being pretty full-time. And I just, once I fell in love with the process and the career that I could see, I realized that didn't necessarily need a law degree to do what I love. And I was terrified of getting into more debt.
I felt the same way.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, I knew I was going to be paying for it myself, and I thought, is this going to be enough of a significant increase in my salary?
Right. Yeah.
Because at the time when I was on Capitol Hill, there were interns. We were making nothing.
Yeah.
And then they all said, "Oh, this person went to law school and they're still making nothing."
Yeah.
So I said, "Okay." And a lot of people say it was like a master's degree. I feel like it's the same in the Texas Legislature.
Absolutely.
Which you taught me too. So I always look to you as a mentor. You were the first people I talked to.
I remember that
from DC.
You were across the ocean when I talked to you. So it might have been nighttime for you when it was daytime for me. But
sure.
Nothing. I mean, attorneys in this business are great. We have at our association a phenomenal general counsel who I rely on a whole bunch. Sure. But for me, it just wasn't the right decision because I knew I didn't want to practice. I knew that this is what I wanted to do.
So you've had a really impressive career. I know I mentioned in the intro all the things that you've accomplished, but what has led you to where you are now with the Texas Chemistry Council?
Yeah. It was not, if you had asked me even 6 months ago if I would be where I am now. So I just recently in September accepted a job as the Vice President of Government Affairs for the Texas Chemistry Council.
Congratulations again.
Thank you. It's really exciting. Before that, for those that don't know, I was running my own business. I had started my own lobby firm and it had been going really well. And I loved my clients. I loved the issues I was working on. I've done it both ways. I've gone and been kind of an assistant lobbyist for somebody, inherited their clients. I really loved the idea, and I loved, in actuality of having my own clients and being able to somewhat pick and choose the issues I was passionate about. But I was presented with a really great opportunity. Texas Chemistry Council was one of the first associations I got to know when I was a young staffer. And they used to, in 2009, between 2008 and 2009, there was a whole bunch of EPA attainment issues going on. They were looking at changing the regulations. Texas was working on a state implementation plan. And, just like you were talking about mentors, a lawyer named Christina Wisdom, and then Daniel Womack, who currently still works for Dow, were essentially in the position I'm in there. And they took a whole bunch of young staffers and would bring them into their office and would teach us environmental policy. And what was incredible about it is the majority of them were women. And that wasn't really a policy issue that you saw a lot of women engaging on. And so, quite literally, there was a whiteboard involved and there was a binder of information. And we sat there and we learned terms and we learned what the federal government was doing and how the state was responding. And so I've always really held TCC in high regard. And I've always admired, Hector Rivero, our president and CEO, has always also been just a mentor to me and always willing to help and answer questions. And so it really was a good opportunity. It has taken me by surprise, I have to say, because even my husband says it. He's like, you just light up when you talk about it. And not that wasn't happening with my own business, but it's a policy issue that I hadn't really dabbled in a whole lot since those early days.
Sure.
But we have the most incredible members. So we're about 70 member companies. And then we have another portion of our organization called the Texas Chemistry Alliance. And these are all of the contractors and professionals who work in and around the chemical industry. So if they touch a chemical plant, they can be members of TCA. And these are just truly, these are your plant managers. These are your people running these companies. These are the people on the ground every day. And it has been so refreshing getting to know them, a little bit outside of my comfort zone, right? This is my comfort zone here, the Capitol policy. But getting to know what they do and how they're impacting our economy, how important their employees' health and safety are to them, has really kind of reinvigorated that curious mind part of me.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was reading you as TCC, you have over 50 billion in annual exports just from Texas
Just from Texas
alone.
and it continues to grow.
That's amazing.
We are responsible for both direct and indirect about 500,000 jobs in the state.
Wow.
We have just, people don't realize that everything you see and touch and everything that's part of your life, chemistry has something to do with it. I think people think of, really synthetic type material when you're thinking about chemicals, but modern medicine, the fact that we can wear the clothes that we wear, the fact that I can drink out of an aluminum can, we have plastic bottles. I mean, these are all modern conveniences that our industry is at the forefront of.
That's really cool. And so
Yes.
your specific role and TCC, for anyone who doesn't know, what is it that you do?
So I do head up our government affairs. So you'll see me at the Capitol a lot. You will see me testifying, a role
Fun.
that definitely I've had to get better at.
You're familiar with it though.
I am. I did a lot more testifying last session than I intended. Sometimes a lot of lobbyists have a very strict, like, I will not testify rule. But I was a little bit different when I started my firm because I found kind of an interesting niche in coalition building. And I actually was executive director of 2 coalitions. So I had to testify. I was their voice in the building, which was a kind of neat part of what I did, which is, I think, why I like the membership side of TCC so much. It's that same kind of coalition building. But, I will be the one at the Capitol testifying, working on policy, negotiating and educating and all of the things that come with government affairs professionals. Well, would you have ever thought, you see Teslas used to be such a rare thing. You'd see one, driving around like, oh my gosh, like that's such a novelty. My next door neighbor doesn't have a single gas run car. They have their plugs in the garage and they both drive electric vehicles. Like it's a consumer demand. We're demanding it as consumers. So it's a free market enterprise, a free market innovation. And it's really cool to see. We're not quite at the flying cars yet, but
can't wait till that happens. I cannot wait. I do not want to drive anymore.
I'm so scared of the autonomous cars you see kind of testing around the streets here. Every time I see one, I tend to stay back a little bit. I don't know.
Yes, I honked at one the other day and then realized no one was in it and thought, this is hilarious. It was actually waiting. It was a Waymo waiting.
Oh, Waymo, yeah.
But yeah, I'm very ready for those to just take over. But we need more charging stations. Do you get involved in any of that on the energy side at all?
Not specifically. Energy and electricity are obviously really important to our companies. Without it, we can't run. Same with water. So, electricity and water will be things that we continue to be part of and have conversations on. We want affordable electricity just like everybody else does. It takes a lot of electricity to run any sort of plant. We need water sources just like everybody else. So those are huge issues. And then another thing that we'll be really involved in watching our taxes, making sure that our tax system is fair and balanced. And, Texas has a lot to be proud of, and we're great at attracting businesses, but we have some of the highest property taxes in the entire country. And it's not just homeowners paying them, our businesses are paying them too. And those are big tax bills. And so just making sure that our tax system is fair and equitable across all, both homeowners and businesses, so that we don't end up with an unfair balance there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see you testify this session, and I'll be watching.
Feels like a test run right here.
Yes, there you go. Exactly. Well, I'm curious to see and what you think on how the Capitol's changed, because 20 years, isn't it crazy how quickly time can go by?
Yes.
What do you think's been the biggest change in the Capitol?
A lot of things. But one of the things that we were talking about when I first got here was fashion.
Yes.
My first job, my first internship, I remember I didn't have a whole lot of money. And so my aunt came into town and she took me to Steinmart, and we bought these awful polyester suits. I mean, one of them was not even a pretty red, this bright red. The fabric was really not very comfortable to wear.
Totally.
Used to wear pantyhose and really terrible high heels, and you kind of felt like you had to, though. You felt like you had to. And I love that now you go into the Capitol and we're all embracing modern fashion.
You got a lot of style here. I love it. The business attire has changed.
The business attire has changed. Now, when I testify, I do still feel the need to wear a jacket, but I don't feel the need to go out and buy the very formal suits anymore, although I'm hoping there will be one under the tree that I've been eyeing.
Yes. Oh yeah, there's some really cool
There's some really cool ones now. It's not the, I that red suit, I used to wear it once a week, and it was just so terrible. I came down to like the very awkward, not quite at your calf, below your knee, and the really awful big buttons. It was special. But yeah, fashion's changed, and I love that people can express themselves in what they're wearing. You don't feel called to like be kind of so stuffy anymore. Shoes, I mean, you can get away with just about everything and anything. And last year, the women in the Capitol, we got a little bit tired of the men getting to wear, I call them the white bottoms. So they're the like fake loafers with the, sorry guys.
Yes.
We were like, that's not fair. They get to walk around, and here we are trotting around in our, like, no one's telling us we have to wear high heels.
We're ruining our feet.
Yeah, we are. Our feet, our hips, all of it. So a bunch of women in the Capitol implemented Sneaker Thursdays, which was great because at the end of session, it kind of turned into like Sneaker Fridays and Sneaker Mondays. But it was fun. I reinvested. There are very cute styles out there. Some of them cost a whole lot of money. I am a Keds girl.
I was going to ask what brand, because I need some new comfy shoes for running around this session.
I'm a Keds girl. Okay. And they have some cute, sparkly. I just bought some that are lace, like black and gold lace.
Can I write it down?
And they're super affordable.
That's awesome.
And washable.
That is amazing. We need this. I can't wash my heels, and I ruin them. Every shoe I buy, I almost immediately ruin. And it was so funny. I texted my grandma the other day. She was my personal shopper all through my intern days and years. And she's a really good person. She can find the best like sale item that's $1,000 suit down to $200.
Oh my goodness!
Or a $300 dress down to $90.
Grandmother's.
She can find like $20 shoes, but that were really
she's amazing. Really great. Yeah, that's amazing.
She's so good at finding the deals. She's like, I'll never pay full price because you can get all these great deals.
Oh yeah.
And the other day, I texted her, "Hey, Grandma, any tips on where I can get some new shoes? I really need some for this session." She said, "I ordered 3 pairs for you because I saw them on your podcast. They looked terrible." Oh my gosh! That was like kind of crazy prediction of hers, but I thought, Grandma's a wizard. How did she do that?
That is kind of amazing.
It was very funny. So she's still my fashion guru. When I don't have time, I wish I had more time to do fun shopping.
I know. Amazon is honestly a lifesaver. We currently get home, handy, especially in the Christmas holiday, and like pile of Amazon boxes on the front porch. It's Christmas. You were asking what has changed. One of the really neat things that I've loved watching is the diversity in people who are working at the Capitol. When I started, there were very few women in kind of higher up leadership roles. And you've seen that completely change. I would venture to say, without taking account, that at least in like office leadership, not necessarily elected officials, you see just as many women as you do men running offices and having higher up positions within offices. I was reading somewhere that this is going to be the highest number of women serving in the House and the Senate. I believe it's 30%, so 9 in the Senate, and I'm going to get this number on. I'm going to get the number on, but 30%.
50 maybe?
Yeah, something.
Maybe
something
a third.
Something like that in the House are going to be serving this year. That's 30%. That's huge. We were at one point down to almost nothing. I mean, like 10 years ago, we lost so many women in elections. And that's not to say, women are better than men or what have you not, but having that balanced perspective, right? Women tend to approach things in a different way. Absolutely. I personally am involved in the LBJ Women's Campaign School for that reason. I strongly believe that as women, we find a million reasons why we should not do things. We had this conversation earlier, like run for office. Like, no, I would never run for office now. I would never want to be president. However, why not? Yeah, I'm not running for president. Let's be clear. But there's so many women who have the skills and have the desire and the passion, and sometimes they just need that little extra training to feel like they can do it. And so that's one of my personal passions. And in this role is I've had so many amazing, both male and female, but female mentors that have, really taken the time to nurture my career and to help me when I needed it. When I was starting my own business, were always recommended me to people looking for lobbyists, which was really neat.
That's really awesome that you've had that experience too. When I met you, you were at TCCRI.
I was the other TCC.
Yes. And for that, you were the first female president for the Texas Conservative Coalition Research Institute.
I was.
That's amazing.
It was a great place too. They have some phenomenal policy ideas. They always have. They really never had, prior to me stepping in the role, a very public-facing side of it. So that was also just kind of a new role that was almost being it was a little experimental, but I think worked out really well. Finally their policy ideas are front and center. And, I always say the guys over there, and I'm sorry, most of them are men who work over there, like, y'all have these amazing policy ideas and you'll never take credit for them. And not that it's a credit kind of thing, but it's really neat to see things, especially now, kind of move through the process. I'm like, this was you've worked on this for 10 years. How cool is that? So I got to be part of a team, because believe me, like, all of these policy ideas were coming from them. But I got to be the one to kind of push them in the building, and that was fun too.
That's really
a lot of fun. Yeah.
When did you feel the shift going from like mentee to mentor?
I don't know if I'm even there yet. I mean, I love being able to help people, help women along the way. I think I will always need mentors and people who will walk alongside me, people who will keep me honest and accountable. Tell me when I'm making mistakes and be brutally honest. But I think for me, it probably started happening when my daughter, I have 2 kids. My son is 11 and my daughter is 8. And when she was about 2 or 3, she started mimicking me. And so she would go get her little like Minnie Mouse purse and walk around holding her fake phone on her ear, and
That's so cute.
And would say, I'm going to a board meeting like mommy. And I think it really hit me at that point, the impact that we can have on other people, whether we realize it or not. And so I think at that point, I feel like I changed the way I, as a whole, carried myself. I think we all as women suffer from imposter syndrome, but really embracing a little more confidence, realizing my daughter is watching me, so all the insecurities that I show, surely she will pick up on as well, and the same in our professional world. Just having the confidence to know that I've done the work and I've put in the time and I'm ready, because it's really easy to talk ourselves out of out of that. The number of times I've sat in a committee room and scratched through testimony and like gotten in my head and just, I can't say that anymore. I can't, and I sometimes forget that I know this stuff and I can do this. And there is no difference between, me and anybody else in that room. So, I think that really hit me though. I think having a daughter and having her start mimicking the things that I was doing kind of made me change the way I carried myself as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a great philosophy to have. And I know I've don't have any little ones yet, but can't wait till they start mimicking me. That's so fun.
For better or worse. I love that.
Put me in check.
Yeah, they will put you in check real quick.
That's so cute. And having that kind of student mentality, I think, for me, I've had such great mentors through my time, and you included. But it was funny because when people start reaching out to me who are, right out of college and want to call and get insights or need help getting a job, I'm so excited and thrilled to help people. So it's kind of like the stage of life that they're in, but always being a student, knowing I have so much more to learn about this.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
now as a business owner, so much more to learn in the tech startup space and all these things. So
Yeah.
that's always learning, but always helping folks that are in different stages. And if we've been there.
Absolutely.
Cool.
And there are just so many people who have paved a path for all of us, you know, men, women who have changed what this career looks like. You know, it used to be a very different world. Even 20 years ago, it was different. So
you mentioned the clothing piece to it. And when I was on Capitol Hill, it was an unspoken rule. You had to wear pantyhose, your skirt had to be knee length. And then in the Senate, in the US Senate, we had to wear skirts. We couldn't wear pants.
wow.
That was wild to me. But all my suits were skirt suits. So I did anyway.
Right.
But it was, I was wearing a lot of those types of polyester suits at the time. And it was funny to have that unspoken rule that you had to wear.
Oh, absolutely.
Skirt suit.
It really was. And it really was like an unspoken rule, right? Like, I don't know, you know, we have like office just standards, right? Like, don't show up in a pair of torn up jeans and whatnot. But, you know, it really was just an expectation that people didn't really talk about, but you knew what you had to dress like and wear. And, you know, and there's also just still a certain respect for that building. There's a certain respect when you're on the House floor or on the Senate floor, or that kind of carries a little more weight with it. And so obviously, like, I still feel a responsibility to dress a certain way if I'm going to ever be in those spaces. But yeah, things are changing. It's fun. We're, you know, for men, it really hasn't. They're still in their suits and ties.
They're
and
so
whatnot,
lucky.
but you know, they've been wearing white bottom shoes, so whatever.
They've gone crazy.
Yeah, they've gone crazy. They're wearing comfortable shoes and not boots anymore.
It's so funny. Yeah, 3 suits and they're good.
Yeah, 3 suits and they're good. Yeah, that's what I bought my husband for Christmas. Surprise.
I also got him suits.
Yeah, surprise. I know you're gonna be really excited when you open your gifts.
He's not excited.
You know, he's not even remotely excited. It's okay.
Well, what do you think of the work from home situation? Because you've lobbied in both when we had lockdown in the Capitol. That's when I first moved here at that session.
Yeah,
it was ghost town.
That's right.
And then to now, and then there's some kind of hybrid in the middle now where people are working from home more or having home offices.
Yep.
How do you see it? I know that you have a great office right next to the Capitol.
Yeah. So when I started my own business, I kind of did the rule of, you know, I talked to a lot of people who had done it before, and they're like, you don't have to get an office space, it'll save you a lot of money. So I was lucky enough that I had friends in and around that would let me kind of crash in their offices. I was definitely, you know, squatting in several offices for a while. But then I really embraced like working from home after that. I will say during COVID, I learned that I am not if the whole family is home, work from home is not a good situation for me. I'm really easily distracted. You know, I feel a responsibility to like do laundry and do my work, or, you know, I also feel like because of all of that, we don't have off buttons anymore. And so I know I personally have a really hard time, and I'm relearning it. And I'm really grateful because Hector has been really good about telling me like, hey, you're turn it off, you're home, stop. Because I have a hard time with that. And I think it became a harder task for me after COVID, because there were no boundaries. You know, you were home, you were on calls at weird hours, you were on Zooms. You know, you'd do 2 hours of laundry, but then you were back at work at 7 p.m. You know, so I feel like now, post having my own business and kind of having my home office and having a proper office and whatnot, I'm actually getting a little better at balancing that time. You know, I think hybrids work well for certain people. My husband is a great work from home person. Like, he can sit there and focus in on what he needs to do, and nothing else distracts him. I was not thriving during COVID. You know, you have 2 young kids at the house. You have, you know, everybody I think was struggling with it.
Oh, for sure. I did not like being trapped.
Trapped. Yes. I think that was a common sentiment.
And I was living alone at the time, so it was extremely, I missed people so much. That was the hardest thing for me. So what are you expecting coming up for this session?
I think,
Good feeling.
I feel like it's so cliche to say like every session is a different session.
Sure.
I have been through multiple speaker races at this point. In fact, my second session, I guess the end of my first session was a school finance year, that internship, and that kind of carried on. Then you had a huge speaker fight in 2007, and every speaker race I feel has had a little bit of a different feel to it. And so, this will be interesting to see. I truly don't have a prediction, and if I've learned anything in my 20 years is that, especially in the speakers race, it's just I feel like you don't know. I mean, um, uh, I'm hopeful that we're gonna go in and get things done, and we won't have. Hopeful we won't have special sessions.
I
I'd
know.
like to, have a nice vacation with the kids this summer.
I hope everybody does.
I hope everybody does. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'll be interesting too to see what's happening in DC and how that affects things here. There have already been talks about, like border security, asking the federal government for reimbursements, things like that, that I think will really play into, the one thing that our legislature is tasked with, which is passing a budget. So, I'll be really interested to see how that federal government piece plays, because typically Texas is Texas.
Right.
It really isn't a factor, but I kind of think it might be this go round. I don't know.
I think so too.
Yeah.
A lot of unknowns. Is that going to impact a lot of your strategy depending on what happens on January 14th?
I mean, yes and no. I think, for our association, stick to the basics of, tax policy, electricity, water, those sort of things that really are, the business of chemistry. We do the best that we can in that situation. Um, a big kind of philosophy that I've kind of undertaken is, got to try to do things, because if you don't at least try, you'll never know. Like, it may be a big fat no, but when it comes to policy work and to new ideas or whatnot, being willing to ask and see what happens is better than wondering if you could have accomplished something that you didn't. And so, whatever the leadership is, whatever the final decision is on the 14th, or if it goes on longer than that, who knows? We'll work with that, and we will work with the leadership and just make sure that we can continue to thrive in Texas, and make sure that we can represent the thousands of employees that our members employ. That's been, I've really enjoyed, as hard as it is to like do day trips away from the family, going to sites, going to events where our members and their employees are, is really helping me understand who it is I'm representing. And I don't think that you can adequately represent a client or a group of people if you don't understand what it is that is really truly important to them. And so I think that, one of the coolest things since I've taken on this role is really being able to get to know the people on the ground, and being able to represent them here, I think is really cool.
I can see you have a lot of empathy in general,
Yeah.
and that's great for this type of thing. So,
South Texas girl at heart.
well, I'm excited to see more of you over on the Capitol this
Yeah,
session, and
same.
appreciate you coming on the show and being a partner of
Yes.
USLege and
Yes,
all
absolutely.
that too. And want to shout yourself out at all? Any where people can find you or reach out to your organization?
I obviously, TexasChemistry.org. You can find all of our information there. And I'm not cool enough to do like the really cool hip social media stuff. Like, I still have a Facebook page, but I don't tweet a lot, but I do Twitter. It's just Mia McCord.
Nice.
Same on LinkedIn. See, I'm
LinkedIn.
I'm
on the
whole-
LinkedIn lately.
the LinkedIn.
Love
I mean, can I just really quickly? So Twitter, in 2007, then Representative Hancock walks into the office and says, it may have been 2009, it may have been his second session, and says, have you seen this Twitter bird thing? I have an account and I'm doing this tweeting thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about. I had no idea what the Twitter bird, the
Sure.
tweeting, the whatever this was. And now it's really funny because you talk about like being on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it now, and you're like, oh, that's what old people are on. Well, what's
I don't know. It's changing.
I don't know. I don't have time for it.
That's so funny. The origin of Twitter. Like, what is this?
Yeah. Oh, I had this like blank stare on my face. Like,
What? Well, I'll go follow you on Twitter if I'm not already. And yeah, thank you so much for joining
Thank
the
you
show.
for having me.